Wednesday on Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand. Happy to be back for another day. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. Hope you are doing better than the Twins. Get to that in a minute. Randy Johnson joins me on today's show to talk Gopher football. Another team that's maybe in a bit of a funk, and maybe that's a bit of an understatement. They lost to Iowa 31-14 last weekend. Michigan and USC up next on the schedule. Doesn't get any easier for them, to say the least. But Randy will get into some of their run game defense struggles, some of their struggles to stay on the field on offense in the second half against Iowa, and just what the future holds for a program that really could use some positive momentum, some positive sustained momentum soon rather than later. Chip Scoggins will join me too to talk about his latest Football Across Minnesota feature. Really enjoyed that one, so Chip and I will have a good conversation on that. A little bit of Vikings and a little bit of Lynx at the end of the show. Lynx playoff game 2 against Phoenix tonight. Target Center, a chance to close out that best of 3 series. Definitely want to do that, because if you don't, you got to go to Phoenix for game 3. So trying to win that one, trying to set up the Final Four of the WNBA. It's going to be a pretty. If they win tonight and set that up and Connecticut wins, it's going to be a pretty good Final Four of the WNBA playoffs. It would be Lynx against Connecticut, and then the Aces against the Liberty. That would be awfully good. So we'll get to that towards the end of the show. First, though, what I miss, we of course need to start with the Twins. They lose 4-1 to the Marlins last night. Marlins, a 99-loss team. If this was supposed to be kind of the ace in the hole for the Twins, that, hey, even after the disaster of a road trip where they went 2-5, they get to come home and play the Marlins for 3 games. Marlins, one of the worst teams in baseball. Not as bad as the White Sox, although the White Sox won last night, at least to avoid history. But the Marlins sitting on 99 wins, ostensibly a 100-loss season on the brink for them. Instead, the Twins lose 4-1. Bailey Ober gives up 4 runs in a bad second inning. The offense, again, can't get any hits when it matters most. They fall 2 games behind both Detroit and Kansas City. Detroit had already won when that game started, so they knew they were behind the 8 ball at that one. Kansas City pulled it out with a run in the 10th inning, beat the Nationals 1-0. So Twins 2 games behind both of those teams they're chasing in the wild card race with 5 games to play. Fangraphs, which has been way more optimistic about the Twins than anybody else, is down to a 27% chance now of the Twins making the postseason. This is now unlikely. This is now a statistical improbability rather than just, oh man, they need to start playing better. That seemed to be the message from Rocco Baldelli after the game, the Twins manager. Let's play that first before I talk anymore.
We talk about big hits and, all of us, we don't want to be talking about that, but we've been talking about it a lot. We've been given or earning some opportunities, putting some guys on, lacking the important hit that's going to bring them in. And, there's no excuses to be given. I mean, we have to just keep having good, better, more positive at bats, and then the outcomes will follow. I mean, yes, there were a few positive things. I mean, Royce had about as good of a game swinging the bat as you could ask a guy to have. The outcomes were not there, so we're not going to sit here and probably talk about that very much, and that makes sense. But some of those swings, could they have led to something big? Absolutely. I mean, those were phenomenal swings across the board. But as a whole, we needed a lot more than what we got today, and especially in those moments where we get some guys on base. Listen, there's now what do we have? 5 games left. In my head, we always go 1 game at a time, but we got to win a bunch of games right now. Yeah. This is well past just us needing to play good baseball. We need to win, and we know that.
I listen to Rocco. I hear a guy who is frustrated and who is, trying not to raise his voice, but is out of answers. He's basically saying, we got to play better. I don't exactly know how to get us to play better, but we got to play better is basically his message right now. That doesn't seem like it's going to be enough right now. It doesn't seem like it's, even if they started playing better at this point, it might not be enough, right? Like even if they went 3-2 in their next 5 games, and you were like, okay, they played better. They started getting some clutch hits. They got better pitching, things like that. Even if they went 3-2 in this stretch, they would need Detroit or Kansas City to go 1-4 to catch them. That's not probably going to happen. Detroit's got 3 against the White Sox still. Kansas City finally stopped their losing streak. They maybe have figured this out. So even if the Twins turned it around at that point, there are no guarantees. And what's making you think they're going to find out any answers at this point? I'd be much more inclined to think that this is going to keep going for the next 5 games than that they're going to find some sort of magic that they haven't had in the last month and a half. Because remember, this is a weird season, right? They started 7-13. Right? They started 7-13. Then they went 63-40 over their next 103 games, and ever since then, it has been awful. 11-23, 11-24 since then, something like that. The record is terrible. The vibes are bad. It's just gone so far south so quickly in this last month. I can't imagine them getting it back. They're still mathematically alive, of course. If they get a good result tonight and some help from somebody, then all of a sudden you could start thinking, okay, maybe they're kind of back into this. But right now, there's no reason to believe they're going to pull out of this. No reason to believe that anything different is going to happen tonight. Twins fans seem to be toggling somewhere between apathy and anger, right? Like sometimes you look and nobody is talking about this team. They're just resigned to their fate. Other times you're looking at them, you look at the Twins, they posted their final score on Twitter last night. All the comments are just so negative. Sell the team, fire Rocco, all this stuff. I don't blame fans for being frustrated. I definitely don't. Like, I get it. I get why they're frustrated. I get that they would be frustrated. It's just interesting to watch how negative this has gotten, how people are fed up with the ownership that maybe really set the tone for this season when you got to, February. We've talked about this a bunch, but Joe Pohlad saying in February, nope, we're good, not going to go out and get any more big-time free agents. All the vibes from last year. Remember this time last year? They're coasting into the playoffs. They end up winning a playoff series. Everyone's like, oh, man, the future is bright. Royce Lewis, superstar in the making. Look at all the pitching they had. All of a sudden, that goes right by the wayside. That is no longer part of the optimistic, big picture look at this team. Yeah, maybe you can squint and say, hey, they got a good look at a bunch of young pitchers this year. Maybe they've got something in David Festa, Zebby Matthews. Maybe you can look at that and say that's good. Same with Richardson. Yeah, maybe you like some of what you saw this year, but you certainly haven't liked what you've seen down the stretch. And the future is irrelevant right now because they are not winning in the present. Fans are angry. Had a couple more emails that we'll get to right now. Actually, I'm just going to do one email and save the other one for Lavelle on Thursday. But I got this one from Mark. He said, Farmer and Margot starting over Wallner and Larnach. I don't care if Randy Johnson is pitching. Put your best players on the field. Lifelong fan is gone if Baldelli returns. Upset that last night Twins played their platoons. Margot hasn't done much this year, especially lately. Farmer's actually been one of their hottest hitters. I don't have a problem with Kyle Farmer playing last night because he's been one of their only good hitters in September. He was hitting like almost 400 with 3 home runs coming into that game in the month of September. So that one doesn't bother me. But the overall point stands. They do play the platoons a lot. They do play the lefty-righty. It makes a certain amount of sense, but in a game where you got to have it, yeah, I agree. You want to see your best players getting your swings. Season basically came down to some at-bats at the end. Edouard Julien is your final hope in the 8th inning when you got 2 guys on. Chance to be a hero and tie the game. He doesn't do anything. Just a lot of bad at-bats by this team. A lot of bad at-bats, a lot of frustrating at-bats. Even if you put your best foot forward, there's no guarantee anything good is going to happen right now at this point. But if you just look at this team right now, at the frustration, at everybody just going and running negative, it is not a good situation right now. And I can only imagine, what's going to happen if and when they are officially eliminated, all the finger pointing, all the kind of post-mortem that will go on with this team. Now, Royce weighed in already saying, hey, if they finish off this collapse, this will be the worst collapse he has seen in all of his time watching this team. And that is a considerable amount of time that Royce has spent watching this team, basically the entirety of their time in Minnesota. I can't disagree with it. This is bad. I mean, 2 years ago was bad when they were tied for the division lead early in September, then finished like 14 games out. That, though, was that team didn't have the sort of expectations that this year's team had, and they weren't gifted so many opportunities, right? Like this team, the real shame of this is that even as they were falling apart for the first 3 or 4 weeks of it, nobody else was breathing down their necks. They had multiple opportunities to pull out of this, start playing decent baseball, even decent baseball, gets them into the postseason. Instead, they have chosen, probably not by their own admission, but they have chosen awful baseball, and that is not probably going to be enough to get them into the postseason. So that's where we're at right now, going into the second game of the series on Wednesday. 5 games left in the season. Again, Detroit's playing really well right now. Kansas City finally broke their losing streak. They're fading. If you're going to catch anybody, it's probably going to be Kansas City at this point. But this could be the last night, really, of scoreboard watching. If we get the same results that we got last night, again tonight, a Twins loss, a Tigers win, a Royals win, you can pretty much call this, even though it wouldn't be mathematically out of range. That's how close we are to being able to call this. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes tonight. But right now, fans are mad or fans are apathetic. Baldelli doesn't know exactly how to pull them out of this. If he did, they would have pulled out of it weeks ago, right? So that's where they are right now. Just a gross way to end the season, and 5 games left to somehow change that narrative.
Let's talk Gopher football today on Daily Delivery with Randy Johnson. Covers the Gophers for the Star Tribune. Randy, I just assume the Gophers would probably rather look ahead than look back, although either one of them is kind of a pick your poison. I guess we're going to start with the Iowa game, then move forward to Michigan and USC. This is a tough stretch. We knew that. At halftime of the Iowa game, it looked good, and then it all went downhill thanks to that running game, more or less.
Yeah, basically they could not stop Caleb Johnson. Iowa got him going, and Gophers just didn't tackle real well in the second half, and just out of position a little bit. Gave him too much space, and PJ Fleck saying it seemed like they were a little hesitant in trying to tackle. They just didn't fire away right away when they could. And that combined with the offense not being able to stay on the field, all of a sudden you have third quarter that looked very much like the opener against North Carolina. It's going to be not an easy task ahead of them this week against Michigan, which basically now they have a quarterback who doesn't pass that much, but an effective runner, and their whole running game very effective as they showed in coming back to beat USC last week.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the two Power 4 schools they've played, North Carolina and Iowa, it's kind of been the same story. It was an okay first half in both cases, better than okay against Iowa, but they got worn down and couldn't stop a really good running back in the second half of both of those games. How does it get better? How do you get better at stopping the run at this point in the year?
I guess you just have to be on point and in what you're doing. Just pay attention to the details. Correct the small things that might have caused bigger things to happen. It wasn't all of the situation getting blown off the ball, but that was part of it. Positioning, just being able to be in the right gaps. Taking advantage of good situations when they have them in offense too. They came out when they got the ball, when it's tied up 14-14. They convert a fourth down in their own territory, but after that didn't do anything on the next 3 plays with it. So it's when you get something like that to help you move forward, you got to take advantage of that.
Max Brosmer was in a really nice rhythm for a good part of that first half. Those 2 scoring drives, they were kind of using a little tempo. He was hitting some short to intermediate passes. Really looked like they had something going. That got disrupted again, and that's maybe the problem, or at least the dilemma they have, is if you go 3 and out in a passing offense, you're not taking much time off the clock. You're not doing much there. They're not used to probably those quick series, at least not quick in terms of game clock. So how do they kind of get a little bit more consistency there? Because again, first half, like I was watching it, those 2 touchdown drives, it seemed like man, they're really putting it up against them. He was looking as good as I've seen him.
Yeah, that was, they were playing very well at that point, especially that 2-minute drive they put together, and they were just moved down the field very well. Maybe, some great catches made. You had the previous drive, Jameson Gears going up and getting that touchdown pass in the end zone, and then Elijah Spencer, basically willing himself into the end zone on that one. So basically they got in the second half. It's just they got off schedule. Didn't get much on first and second down, and then you're looking at third and long, and that's not a place you want to be against the defense that's been its ears back.
So you had the Iowa loss. We'll probably move forward in a minute here, but I did not realize, you wrote about it this week, you got fans upset right now saying, hey, can we get rid of PJ Fleck? What's going on here? You write about his buyout. I did not realize, Randy, how big his buyout is right now. Not that you should get rid of PJ Fleck right now, but man, that's a big number.
Yeah, it's a big number. It's in the over like 23, 24 million. Basically, they're looking at he's Mark Coyle's guy, and I don't see Mark Coyle bailing on PJ anytime soon. Now, you put together a few bad seasons in a row, then your AD is going to be looking at things. But right now, I think they just have to figure out a way to improve from within. They're the team they have right now. There's no waiver wire to go raid. There's nobody to trade either in the middle of the season, even though with loosened transfer rules, but you got to wait till the offseason to do that type of stuff. Their help has to come from within. It's happened before. They've they were on a tough stretch in 2018. A lot of that was a product of the defense. They fired Rob Smith, promoted Joe Rossi, and they took off. Basically, won like 4 or 5 down the stretch, made a bowl game that kind of gave them a little springboard into the next season where they had their 11-2 season. But when they just won some close games early and then just started feasting on the Big Ten schedule, that was quite a bit easier than this one. But still, they had that big win against Penn State and took care of everybody they needed to take care of. It just they came up a little bit short of winning the West title outright that year. It's got to come from improvement from within.
The elephant in the room is that the schedule is just never going to be as easy as it was for those years of Big Ten West play. Yes. And like I said, Michigan and USC up next. There's a bunch of tough games still down the stretch. You got Penn State towards the end of the year. You got a bunch of other rivalry games. It's not ever going to be that open or winnable. That said, it's an opportunity, right? You can't look at it as anything except that. What do they have to do against Michigan to, start feeling better about themselves and put themselves at least in a spot that they could win that game?
They need to be able to run the ball more effectively and stop the run more effectively. Those are the two big things. Now, you need some help up front. You need the line to play better than it has. You need to be able to sustain some drives and sustain the clock. You keep the opponent off the field. You can do that with a balanced offense with a passing game too. You want to use the skills of Max Brosmer. I mean, he's an accurate passer, and he's put together a couple of good games. I think he's one that can help dig you out of the funk you're in right now. But they need fewer mistakes from all facets on offense, and then defense. You just they gotta bow up and figure out a way to stop that run.
Well, they always say it's on to the next week, 0-0 at this week. We are allowed to look further ahead. USC, I mean, it's not easy right now. It's not easy in this conference with that schedule. I mean, you're looking at 2 games right there where if things go how you would imagine they would, they'd be sitting at 2-4 after this is all said and done. Yeah,
if you go by the point spreads, that's what's going to happen. That says it doesn't have to happen that way, but to do so, they're going to have to be the ones that make it happen, and they can't wait for any help. It's just they are what they are right now, and a team can improve as the season goes on. You'd like to think when you play against these better teams that maybe that'll help you get better down the stretch. I mean, it doesn't have to be all just demoralizing. You can learn lessons from them. it's just a frustrating thing to have to go through for a team. But that's their reality right now.
What else around the Big Ten before we go? Anything else surprising you? Anything else kind of, any other teams that you say, I didn't think that, or that they're either better or worse than you thought they'd be?
Well, you look at Illinois, they're they go to Nebraska, winning overtime, and they're undefeated. They got a couple of two wins against ranked teams, against Nebraska and then Kansas when they were ranked. The Gophers got to go there later this year, so that's not, and the Gophers have yet to beat Brett Bielema.
People are down on this right now, but that is why they play the games. It's always subject to change. If they go out and pull an upset, things will look a lot different. And even if they don't, there's always a week after that, right, Randy?
Well, yeah, college football is tough. It's it's the opposite of NFL. You don't get better players when you're a worse team. You
actually get worse players. Generally,
you don't get the first pick in the draft if you're 0-11 or 0-12. No, a lot of the work has to be done from within. It can be tough. The new reality with an expanded Big Ten means more tough stretches of schedule. It's just you just got to get better on your own.
We'll see if they still love what they are. All right, Randy. We'll see you later.
Watch your dreams and savings grow with Royal Credit Union's 4.25% annual percentage yield 12-month certificate. Open now at any Royal office or online at rcu.org/certificate saver. Early withdrawal penalties could reduce earnings and principal. APY accurate as of 2/1/25. Insured by NCUA.
Good stuff from Randy. Gophers only 9 or 10 point underdogs at Michigan, according to whatever line you look at. Thought it might be a little bit more. That doesn't feel like it's an out of reach kind of game, but it does feel like the kind of game where things are certainly going to have to go their way. They're going to have to catch 2 or 3 breaks, make a couple big plays if they want to be in that game, but certainly not one where you just look at it and say, no chance. A chance, but one they're going to have to really take advantage of, and we'll see if they can do that on Saturday in the Big House. And as we do every week, we feature the Football Across Minnesota story that Chip Scoggins put together. A unique story always, but this one in particular. It is Football Across Minnesota time. Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune columnist, joins me as he does every week. Writes the Football Across Minnesota feature every week during the fall. Chip, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mikey. Thanks for having me.
What's on the docket this week? Seems like you always have some interesting tales to tell.
Yeah, we have a fun one this week. There is a senior at Park Christian High School in Moorhead, out on the border, I think, from your neck of the woods.
About an hour from me, where I grew up.
Yeah, so Sam Smith did not play organized sports growing up. He didn't play sports really. He tried baseball briefly as a kid, but he was homeschooled till 8th grade, and he went to started going to Park then, and he went out for the football team as a freshman. Basically, had to be able to. They had to teach him how to get into a lineman stance. He's a 6'4" kid, so he's big. They had to teach him everything: what a huddle was, what a play was, how it functioned. How to get into a lineman stance. I mean, just as the coach said, it was like taking someone off a deserted island and teaching them football. And so through hard work and growth, Sam has become a 6'7", 260-pound lineman who's going to play at Division II Sioux Falls next year. Worked with a guy who's an NFL lineman this summer when he decided he wanted to become he wanted to play in college, but also besides that, Sam is a accomplished concert violinist. He started playing violin at the age of 6. His mom and sister always took him up to it's called the International Peace Gardens up in North Dakota.
Yep, I've been there many
Canada
times.
Border. Yep. Yeah, there's a music camp there, and he learned to play fiddle. He would get into fiddle sessions there and became a really talented violinist. He tried out and made the top orchestra. It's a Fargo Moorhead Youth Symphony that travels around and plays. They play down at Orchestra Hall here in Minneapolis. He's now he said now he's sitting right behind the first chair, so he's pretty accomplished, and he has a private teacher that he also works with. He practices hour and a half a day. He has a private instructor. He's also in the school orchestra there at Park Christian. But Sam performed the national anthem on his violin. Friday night was senior night, so he takes his shoulder pads off, gets his violin, plays just a absolutely beautiful rendition of the national anthem, and put his shoulder pads on and went out and blocked. So just a really cool kid, and who's doing great things. Probably the first time I'm going to bring, first and last perhaps, that I'm going to bring a violin solo into the video, but here we go. Not the greatest video, I understand. Yeah. We want to give you a taste of what that's like. So yeah, just what a cool story. Going from basically not knowing what organized football is to, getting an opportunity to play at the Division II level, which is impressive, and all around well-rounded guy, sounds like. Yeah, and NIC, that's a very good Division II conference, and he went to camps this year for the first time. He went to the Gophers camp, he went to South Dakota State camp, North Dakota State camp, and all the coaches, the feedback they gave his high school coach, Matt Bosch, was a raw but very high potential, because you look at his size, and nobody really knows what his ceiling is because he's still so new to this. But a really great family. Spent some time with them out there Friday night in Moorhead, and he's going to do great things. Awesome. Before we go, let's get some game balls. There's plenty to go around, I would think, with everything going on right now. Yeah, Jonathan Grenard, Vikings linebacker, for sure gets one. 3 sacks against his former team yesterday. Very active. He obviously was very inspired to play well, and he did. Mason West, Edina quarterback, against Wayzata. He throws 5 touchdown passes, 300 yards. He also rushed for a touchdown. And then Cooper Drews, the Bethel quarterback, accounted for 7 touchdowns against Eau Claire. He passed for 294 yards, 5 touchdowns, and he also ran for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Cooper had a huge game for Bethel. So those 3 will be getting the game balls tomorrow. Vikings have 3 wins already. Gophers have 2. I think I know who's going to wind up with more by the end of the year. That's right. No Gopher game balls this week. No Gopher game balls this week. Well, in the first half, it looked like there might be some, but yeah, that game took a turn in a hurry. Chip, appreciate it. Read his Football Across Minnesota feature every week. Star Tribune, startribune.com. Watch our videos every week. Leave us a rating, a comment on YouTube. We'd love that. Chip, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Mikey. Good stuff from Chip. Wonder who will be in his game balls next week. Will it be someone from the Gophers, which it wasn't this week? Will it be someone from the Vikings? Will they be able to go to 4-0 after their showdown at Lambeau Field? A lot of football to play in both cases, but a lot of things to watch this weekend, which leads me into the cooler. A little bit of Vikings and Lynx right now. First, the Vikings. Interesting decision the Packers have to make with Jordan Love, who probably still isn't 100%. Remember, he injured his knee in that Week 1 loss in Brazil on that bad field to Philadelphia. Lost, he went down on one of the game's final plays. They lose that game. Malik Willis comes in. They to completely shift their offense around. Willis has been pretty efficient. The run game has been good, and the defense has been good. They won their last 2 games without Jordan Love. Obviously, they want Love back if he's healthy, but probably not going to be 100%. And let's face it, Sam Darnold might not be 100% this week either, as he kind of battles from that knee bruise that was good news, not missing time, but still probably feeling a little bit of the effects on that. But will Green Bay play Jordan Love in kind of a huge game, right? If Green Bay loses, they're 2-2, Vikings are 4-0, and the Vikings have gained a road win at Lambeau, so they're kind of inching towards tiebreaker territory, things like that. If Green Bay wins, they're both 3-1, feels a lot more manageable. So will they push Jordan Love back out there against a Brian Flores defense that has been very confusing for young quarterbacks, and B, has been getting after the quarterback, at least 5 sacks in each of the first 3 games this season. First time that's happened in the NFL in 20 years. So that's an interesting kind of cat and mouse. What do they do at quarterback? How do they factor in Jordan Love's long-term health versus wanting to win this game? The Lynx
certainly want to win this game tonight. You don't want to go to Phoenix. You don't want to mess around in this series. You want to take care of your business. To do that, they're going to have to play much better defense, I do believe, than they did in winning the opener. They were able to, cobble together a win in the opener by having tremendous offense, over 100 points against Phoenix in the opener. Phoenix will give up points. The Lynx need to tighten it up on defense this go around, though, to make sure they are taking care of their business, to make sure they are advancing to the next round, likely against Connecticut, looking probably at a Lynx versus Connecticut series. Lynx would be the home team in that case because they're the 2 seed. Connecticut's the 3 seed. And you're talking about, that as the likely series, as well as the likely series being Liberty versus Aces. So those would be 2 great series. Can the Lynx finish it off? Can Connecticut finish it off tonight? We will see, but the Lynx need to play much better defense, which has been one of their calling cards this year. So I have confidence they will, but they do need to play better defense tonight, and I think they know it as well. That will do it for me today. Like I said, Lavelle E. Neal III on tomorrow's show. Definitely we'll get into some Twin stuff. Definitely we'll get into some Viking stuff. Until then, I am Michael Rand. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Back at it again tomorrow.